The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our MWF webinar. For those of you who don't know, in a nutshell, MWF is our automated Revit wall, floor, ceiling, and truss framing software for light gauge steel, and also for timber modeling. Today, Natalie will be covering our wall module. So that'll include bearing headers, joints, service holes, bracing, and more. If you are unfamiliar with MWF, we highly encourage you to take a look online at our products and also to reach out to us after the webinar to set up a one-on-one demonstration with one of our technicians. Our technicians are able to take you through how you build and also how MWF modules can benefit your next project. As usual, anyone who's registered for the webinar will be sent a recording automatically. And lastly, I would just like to remind everyone that you can ask questions throughout the webinar in the questions tab of the GoToWebinar dashboard. All right, that is it for me. I'm going to hand it off to Natalie now.
Hi everyone. Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm a design technician at the UK office at Struxoft Solutions, and today I'm just going to take you through some of the key functionality that you can of MWF. I've just got a little model to work on today. It's just a pair of two-story houses put together. So I'm just going to navigate to the first floor of the houses, and I think I'm going to start off by covering wall creation and then how we can create a template map to automate our wall creation. Then I'm going to look at marker lines to create holes and horizontals within the studs, and then I'm going to look at adding some headers, and then as I move on I'll look at adding some joins and bracing, and then we'll also look at some of the multi-layer tools within MWF. So let's start now just by manually this is more of the manual way to create one of our walls. So I've just grabbed one of these walls, click into the wall module, and now I've just had this screen come up where I can specify some offsets and then show the type of the wall. And now I've got some of my preset up templates. So I'm just clicking into this one. And then immediately you get your properties options come straight up. There is a lot of different things we can add to our panels in this, and we're going to take a quick look at that a bit later. So I'm just going to show you the quick create tool now. I'm just going to grab a couple of walls and hit quick create. This shouldn't take too long. It should only take a couple of minutes, but if you're grabbing quite a few walls, a good thing to do is just set it up, go for a coffee, have a chat with your colleagues or something like that, and then you get back and it's done. So as you can see, I've got my two different wall types here, and MWF has recognized that and added the specific template to the wall type. So I've set this up by going into the template map, and as you can see, I've got my wall types here, and then they've had specific templates set to it. If you wanted to lock that so you couldn't make any further changes to this, you just click this checkbox here. I am going to change one of the templates just to show you how it is quite simple to manage. So I'm going to go into my exterior wall and go down and select the exterior horizontals template and press OK. And then let's see what happens. Just shouldn't take too long, just taking a couple of seconds. Okay, so if we look at this panel, it looks a little bit different to the other panels. We've got like a whole series, and we've also got some staggered horizontals in here. So there is a couple of different ways of producing this result. I'm first just going to look into the properties tabs to just show you how I've done that and then saved it to the template. So first, if I go into miscellaneous, in fact, before I go into miscellaneous, firstly, I've got into structural and clicked the split horizontal studs so I could achieve that staggered effect. The next thing I'm doing is I'm going into horizontals and clicking edit. And I've already got a setting set up here for the panel, but I'm just going to delete it and then we'll just start from fresh. I'm starting from the very first member of the panel, so that's going to be E1. And I'm going to go straight to E2 because we want it right to the other end. And I'm going to do my offset from the end of the panel. Now I'm going to set the justification. I want it in the structural center line because that's where the rest of the members in our panel are. And then I'm going to set a stagger offset of 6 inches. I can also set up some horizontal offsets here so that I can specify exactly where I want my horizontals to be. But instead I'm just setting up some spacing at 3 feet. And then I'm just going to click add. If I was going to make any changes to this later, I'd click on it and then click update. So we've done that, we're going to press close. And then I'm just going to show you some of the whole series options that we've got. So I've got navigated down to whole series. And here I've got some preset up holes. I've got a service hole, web notch, and a dimple hole. And then I've chosen to have it vertical spacing, and I can set up my spacing here and then add it into the properties. So I'm just going to hit OK. So that's how I've achieved some of the settings for that panel. Then I've later on saved it to my template, and then I can apply that really quickly by setting up my template map. There is another way of doing this, however, which I think is maybe a bit easier if you want to make changes to that individual panel, but then not to the others in your building. And I'm just going to change the template there. Also, if you want to make a really quick change to a panel, it's quite easy to do that. They're also used quite visually, which it's just a different way of doing things. So I'm just change my template back to the regular template. In fact, I will change my template map. Here we are. And now I'm going to insert my marker line. So I'm going to just go into the markers drop down, and then I'm going to go to create marker lines. I want some regular spacing, and I want it at 3 feet. I can assign a whole series, but in this case I'm going to assign some blocking, and I'm going to assign blocking 2. The reason I'm going to do this is because for blocking 2 I've set some clip settings, so you can see how easy it is to put your blocking in and then also have the clips automatically put in as well. So I've checked insert clips, and if you go into the settings, I find it quite useful as well because you have like a little visual here of whereabouts your clips are going to be put, and what to expect before you've applied your settings. So I've got my lines in there. I need to hit regenerate before I can see the blocking put into the panel. Okay, so if we look here, you can see I've got my blocking put in, and then I've also got clips on both sides, at the hard side and the open side. But now I want to just make some changes to this blocking. So I'm just going to select the marker lines. And then I'm going to click into the properties. So normally when you click onto the panel, you get the big set of options for the properties, but these are just the marker line properties, so you get something different. So here I'm going to change my blocking to a different kind, and I'm also going to add a whole series to the marker lines at the same time. So I'd like a service hole, and then I'm going to click OK. Again, that doesn't really make any changes, so I'm just going to hit regenerate. And here we are. So we have a set of holes, and we also have our horizontals in the correct position. The final thing I'm going to do on my panel is just make some really quick changes. I'm just going to go into wireframe. I'm just going to grab my marker lines. And manually change them. So this is quite useful if you only want, say, holes or blocking to go through certain members in your panel, like you have to make allowances for MEP or something else coming into your panel that isn't like, it's only applies to that specific instance and not to all the panels in your building. Just grab that marker line there. So I've made a couple of manual changes here. I'm going to go back into the regular view and hit regenerate. So this is updated pretty quickly, just to the horizontals that I need for that panel. So now I'm gonna have a quick look at putting some bearing headers into one of our wall panels. So I'm just going to drag this panel out here. Before I frame anything, I'm going to assign my markers to these openings. So first I'm going to put my window in and select apply opening type. I've got my window marker. I've set these up, which I can do in Marker Manager. There's a lot of different options. You can easily add members, select the members that you want, and also you can create different types of headers, truss headers and box headers as well. I'm also going to add my marker for the door. Okay. And then I'm just going to hit quick create. Okay, so that's immediately created a box header for my door. And then I've got just a little bit of extra support on my window. So I've got 2 sill members, 2 header members, and then a couple of king studs around the side. So on our first floor, we've just looked at adding horizontals, some hole series, how to quickly create your panels, and some headers. So we're just going to have a look at the second floor now. And I'm just going to quickly put some joins in to these panels. So firstly, I'm going to add a corner join here. So as soon as you select the 2 walls, the software automatically recognizes what kind of condition you're using. So here it's given me a lot of different options for a corner join. I'm just going to select this one here, any typical A. Again, if you go into the Marker Manager, you can very easily set up your own joins. And now when I select this 3-way join, I will get a different set of options. Just going to select this one here. And I'm just going to quickly create these walls. Just take a couple of seconds. And here we go. So basically the join is set up sort of like a rule set to tell the panel where to stop. It's placed like an extra member in here, just so everything joins cohesively. I mean, you wouldn't sort of even realize that it's done anything, but if I was just to place a join into this set of walls here, just a moment. I'm not too sure what's happening here. We'll just try a different wall. So we'll try this one. Just a couple of seconds while it creates these panels. And now we're going to place a join in here. So here we go. You've got the same kind of options. I'll just choose this one. And as you can see, that join the panel has recognized that join, and it's just added a couple of extra members around here. So it is framed according to where you've placed the join. So now I'm just going to have a look at putting some bracing into our panels. So I'm just going to manually create this wall with our bracing template. Okay. So now I'm going to go back into the miscellaneous tab and select K braces. And now I'm going to start it again at E1 right at the start of the panel. And I'm going to have 3 sections next to this member. And then I'm also going to have another set. And when you add the bracing, you can see what you're basically given a visual of what it's going to look like when you've added it into the panel. I'm going to put it on the structural center line again, and then I'm going to choose the members that I want to use for my bracing and my horizontals. And once I've added that, I can start looking at where the bracing, like the placement of the bracing. So I can put the top braces on the horizontal and then maybe have the bottom members at the center. And then make sure I've pressed modify, so my settings have taken that on board. And there we have it. It's just quickly put in those braces for us. I'm just going to add a couple of more things to see what we can do to this panel. I'm going to look at putting some kickers in now. So here we are. When you go into the kickers, you can't really see anything, so I just need to add a kicker set here. And then you've got your options come up. So I want these at the top of the panel. You automatically get an offset put in. I mean, you can change this as you want. I'm just going to have mine going straight from the top of the panel. And I want them coming out the exterior side. I can also set the angle of the kickers as well. And then if I click here, this focuses on what kind of members I'm going to use for the kickers. I'm just going to press OK. And here we go. And then, in fact, I'm going to look at putting some anchors into this. I'm going to look at putting some anchors into this panel, as I think this is a new feature in one of the new versions of MWF. So let's have a look at that. Okay, I'm going to enable hold downs. I can add a hole series in as I want to, so I can put a slot hole in there. I can specify my family that I want to use. And I can also put an offset of if I only want them in certain places in the bottom of the panel. So we'll just give that a couple of seconds, and as we can see, we've got a anchor put in, which is just clashing with this brace at the moment. We've got an anchor put in at the open side of every stud, and we've also got a hole series put in for those anchors. So before we wrap things up, I'm going to have a quick look at the multi-layer tools for MWF. So let me just quickly create this wall. And then I'm going to make this a multi-layer wall, I'm going to go into the right-hand side of the wall panel and go to the operations drop-down. And then I'm adding a secondary layer to the panel. That way, the MWF sort of recognizes it as a multi-layer panel. And then I'm just going to go into the wall properties. So this is like the equivalent of making like doing the create tool in the single layer tool. So I've already got a template assigned to my metal stud layer, and then I'm going to use my sheathing layer, and I'm going to add the default template to this layer and select, and then I'm going to press OK. And just like that, we've got a layer of sheathing added to our panel. To look into this a little bit more, I'm just going to go over into the settings. You can sort of change your sheathing templates here. If I just go into modify, you can set extensions. You can specify if you want a staggered sheathing or just a basic tiled, and you can also align it with the framing. So there's plenty you can do there. You can also set up sort of like a template map for your walls. So this wall that I was using earlier, you can firstly set a template for that. So select this one, and then you can also apply the sheathing template to the sheathing layer. Press OK. And then there is a quick create tool in the operations drop down. That will both frame your panel for you and add a sheathing layer. Now I'm just going to have a quick look at the shop drawing tools. So I think I've got some settings set up. I'm just going to go into the drawings manager to just have a look at what you can do quickly. So one of the views that are going to come up in my shop drawing is the framing elevation. So I'm just going to go into these three dots here. And as you can see, a lot of options on what you can do, where you can put your dimensions, and also how you want to label your panel. And then also what direction you want your panel to be in. There's also quite a few options for MEP within your panels as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a shop drawing and see what we can get. I just need to grab the framing in this panel. Just give that a few moments. I've just had an error come up here, and it's basically saying the panel has no MEP because we don't have an MEP link in this particular file. But I think that's quite a good thing, because it's these sort of shop drawing settings are really set up for if you have MEP, and it can show that in your shop drawings. So we're just going to have a look at what we've got here, and without changing many of the settings, we've got a sheathing schedule, and we've got a framing schedule, as well as your section and framing and sheathing within the elevation. So I think that's about everything for this afternoon session, unless we've had any questions come in.
Thanks, Natalie. It does actually look like we had a few questions that came in. First one is, I want to put 2 or more panels into one wall. How can we do this?
Okay, so let's go and create a wall, and there is a couple of different ways of doing this. You can apply the splits when you go into the create tab. So if I just go in here and click create, you can add some split points here. So that's if you want that gives you like a very accurate sized panels. You can also add a split marker. If I just go into structural connections, this is quite a visual way of doing it. And you can see the split marker coming in here. Let's try that one more time. Just going to go in from the top view. And here we are. And then let's go create. Okay. My split, that has created a split within the panel. However, it hasn't created 2 separate panels. So I think we'll just do that a different way, and we will try and create a couple of different panels within this wall. So I'm going to use some offsets here. So I'm going to set an offset of 6 feet. And then go into the template. Okay, and there we've created 2 panels within the wall. If you did want to make changes to one of these panels, you could just click on it here and then make the changes within the properties. But then if you wanted to make the changes to both the panels, you just click all panels here. Is there any other questions?
We do actually have one more. It's how can I number or name my panels in a cohesive order?
Okay. We do this by going into a floor plan. So say we've got a lot of different numbers here, and then I'd go to the right hand side and I'd go to the edits drop down and go to, you can do renumber panels, which does it automatically, but renumber panels by selection is quite useful. So you can decide what you want all of your panels to be named, and then say if you wanted something at the end, you could say W for webinar, and then you can have a start number of 1. And then you just need to click the panels that you want, like how you want the order to go in, and then it automatically updates it for you. Okay.
All right, great. Thanks, Natalie. I just want to say Thank you, Natalie, and I think that's all the time we have for the questions today. And also thank you to everyone who registered for the webinar. As I mentioned, the recording will be sent to you shortly after the session is closed. As always, please feel free to share the recording with any colleagues. If you have any questions, though, please don't hesitate to contact us directly.
Thanks everyone for coming.
And then stay tuned because in the next few weeks, we will also be covering the floor module. A link will be sent out shortly for that as well. All right. Thank you, everyone.